I am.
He's kind of cute.
I know. This is what we do here.
No bitching out.
What? My life just got markedly worse. It's your uncensored, unfiltered, almost late-night look at the current events and pop culture happenings over the past 7 to 10 days.
After dark, whatever the hell that is.
Men of the island of the mighty, you have only known peace when it was given to you. You've only known unity when it was forced upon you by stronger kings. But today, you stand together. You stand as Britons. You stand as one.
Ride forth against the barbarian and lead your high king to victory.
I've seen what you can do.
Great light preserve our king.
Great light, great darkness. We are not so different, you and I.
The Pendragon Cycle. Rise of the Merlin premieres January 22nd, only on Daily Wire Plus.
All right, guys, we are back with our post show of AmericaFest Day 5. We had so much fun. Day 4, we had so much fun today covering all of this. We have someone very special with us here, is our fellow reporter, Brecca Stoll, who's actually just in the room listening to all the speeches, seeing everything close up and personal, but she also spent a lot of her weekend talking to people here at AmericaFest, getting the vibe, asking them questions. So Brecca, welcome. Tell us about what you saw.
So I think today, and as I talked to people, I was wondering what the last day of AmericaFest was going to bring. And as I talked to the students, they wanted it to be unifying. They want their Republican Party unified under one thing to fight. What they kept telling me was the left. And today was a call to action. That was the summary of today. You saw speakers walking Gen Z through what they've been through, whether that was 2008, the creation of social media, then COVID-19, the reality that college doesn't guarantee stability. And it was a call to action that you need to still believe in your country, believe in yourself, that you can do it, and also just one that unify the Republican Party, because you just heard JD say, would you rather have disagreement or would you rather have one party all thinking the same thing?
Yeah, that's crazy. And Brecca, I think we have some clips that you took from inside the room while the vice president was speaking. Let's throw to one of those guys.
Enthusiasm here.
I know. A great walkout song, too. We love the Hollies. That's how you know that JD Vance is a dad. That's some good dad rock right there.
Brecca, was everyone on their feet?
Oh, everyone started chanting JD, JD, JD.
That's amazing. I feel like this is definitely, I mean, unsurprisingly, but this is for sure the most energetic crowd that we've had all week.
Oh, for sure. And they were booing when they talked about things like transgenderism. They were laughing at Nicki Minaj. They were so engaged.
All right, well, we should actually talk about Nicki for a second. That was
yes.
Pretty great. I mean, first of all, just iconic. She's the best. But also, that was like a very substantive and nuanced and also, I would say, powerful speech. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, it was surprising, right? We were told yesterday, Tyler told us that there was going to be a surprise guest. I was wondering if it was Trump. Obviously, that's kind of who I wanted as a White House correspondent. But everyone was wondering. We were speculating last night. And today we found out it was Nicki Minaj. She came out, as we all saw, sat down with Erica, and they had this conversation. Brecca, you were in there. How were people reacting?
The crowd loves Nicki. I think the conservative movement is like, thank you for coming to our side. Maybe she's always been there, but they loved her. They embraced her. They were laughing at everything she said. And I think she just proves that the conservative movement is cool again. And she talked about that.
I kind of love the Nicki Minaj, like, slow growth into a conservative icon, because she sort of mirrors the way that the Republican Party has changed. Like 6 years ago, she was tweeting at Obama being like, like taxes are too high. Why can't we lower taxes? Why can't we have less regulation? And then she started speaking out after Charlie was killed. And now she's just going like head to head with Gavin Newsom over trans kids. It's like much as the party becomes more based and more kind of unafraid to embrace the culture wars, so goes Nicki Minaj.
Absolutely. And you know what? The issue that really brought her to Trump actually was the slaughter of Christians in Nigeria. And so when Trump took action and spoke out against this, that was what caused her to start posting up the wazoo about how much she loved the president. And ever since then, they've had a great relationship. I think she and Ambassador Mike Waltz had a big public event where they talked about it. And she's just super grateful that the president is paying attention to the plight of Christians in Nigeria, where they truly are being slaughtered. So that's really cool. We're so happy that she was here. My favorite part, and Breck, I want to hear more from you on this, was Vice President Vance speaking tonight. What a speech. I had chills. I was tearing up. I don't know if you could tell. I didn't want you to make fun of me. But wow, what a speech. Especially, I think, the part where he talks about the conspiracy theories and how, he himself went down the rabbit hole for several nights after Charlie died, how he was in a really dark place and his wife was really worried about him, which I think is such an important piece of information to share with everyone. We all were wondering. People still are wondering. And he's saying, look, I'm like you. I spent a long time looking into all of this, and I realized that the only way forward is looking at facts, at truth and reality, and acting the best way that Charlie would want us to, which I just thought was really profound. But Brecca, I'm curious, you were in there. What was the vibe? Were people tense? Were people listening?
I think the Turning Point audience is ready to embrace JD, and I think Charlie would have been very proud of what he did today because he showed he can unify the party. He also, another thing he talked about, and it was like hinted at, but they are starting to focus on affordability.
Yeah.
And you heard that in his speech, and he said, I know you guys might not be happy with the progress. Love that. Like, it's going to mean you're going to keep moving forward. And that is what, honestly, the Conservative Party needs to focus on right now, is uniting under affordability. Because the reality is these younger students are getting trapped in these vicious debt cycles. And what we've seen is they're not turning to Dave Ramsey, they're turning towards the voting booth. And JD knows that.
Yeah. No, it's super interesting, too. I think, obviously we always say that President Trump is a fighter. We know Vice President Vance is a fighter, but from out here, what sounded like the biggest applause line was when he said, we're going to kick their ass in 2026 and in 2028 and in every other election since then. The crowd went wild. And that's something that, obviously when the president goes out and campaigns for, Republicans, but he does it in his own way. They turn into Trump rallies. He does some double endorsements. I think what we saw there was Vice President Vance, a little bit more of a traditional politician, maybe a glimpse at what we've been talking a lot this week about how he's going to need to come up with a new coalition to unite the party. Yep. I think that just a return to basics, rah-rah, Republican victories in the midterms and the presidential in every year since. There's something really kind of impactful about that.
Absolutely. And something I picked up on when Don Jr. gave his speech is he talked about how there's such a deep bench of options for the future of the Republican Party. And I thought that was really interesting because he didn't specifically talk about JD Vance, unless I missed something. Correct me if I'm wrong. He talked about the bench. And that's something we hear all the time. We got Marco Rubio, we have JD Vance. I believe Jack Posobiec on our show talked about Pete Hegseth and a bunch of other of these high-profile administration officials. So that's something to keep an eye on as well, because we know that Donald Trump Jr. and JD Vance are very good friends. Donald Trump Jr. and Charlie Kirk were part of the reason that the president chose JD Vance to be his vice president. So all of this is fascinating to me, all of this playing out in real time here at AmericaFest.
I'm just going to say it. Donald Trump Jr., first of all, fantastic speech. We were talking about it as we were watching live. It was incredible. I'll say it here. He sounded a little politician-y. He sounded a little bit more campaign trail than usual.
Yeah, he did.
I don't know. Might we see, we went from Trump-Vance, might 2028 be Vance-Trump?
Maybe. I saw some kind of gossip stories out there about it. I don't know if they're true or not. We'll have to find out. But I thought he sounded pretty presidential. From the inside of the room, what was the vibe? More applause, less applause? What was the vibe?
I think there was a lot of applause for Don Jr. The room erupted when he was like, I'm going to call my father.
Yeah.
And so the crowd loved that. They were chanting USA. He was hitting all of his points. But I really do think there was a moment when JD entered the room that the crowd just embraces him. And then I do have one question for you guys. Were you catching the trend where they kept pointing it back to America is founded on Judeo-Christian values?
Yes, absolutely. That was something, and this is really interesting, the focus on bringing it back to truth, back to Christianity. And JD had a line, and I'm going to butcher it because I can't remember it exactly, but he said something along the lines of, would you rather die a patriot or live a coward? And he was, referring to the people who aren't willing to stand up for the truth. But Charlie Kirk, his friend, died a patriot, and he was encouraging all of these young people who are here to be like Charlie and to stand up for something. And just so remarkable, such an amazing message. And that's something we heard from a lot of these speakers throughout the weekend, just encouraging them to be honorable and strong. And I really love that message.
Yeah, Judeo-Christian values used to be one of those things in like the Bush years that Republicans just sort of said because you had to, and it didn't really mean anything, or at best it meant just sort of vague social conservatism. But I think what we've seen this week, and we're certainly seeing more and more, is that it is starting to mean something. People are starting to use it intentionally. People are having conversations about what role faith needs to play in the public square, trying to get back and wrestle with the original intent of, okay, separation of church and state. That didn't mean that you can't bring these things together. It meant that you can't force it together. And honestly, Brega, I feel it's your generation. It's Gen Z. I mean, we had Bryce Crawford on the show. That was one of the biggest crowds that we had all week. I mean, there's something going on. There's something going on with the youths, and I think the politicians are picking up on it. And they realize that now, if they're going to throw around terms like Judeo-Christian values or Christian heritage or Western civilization, things like that, they can't just say it. They need to define it, and then they have to live by it.
Absolutely. Brecca, I also wanted to ask you, we talked about one of your men on the streets earlier this week, but tell us again, what was everyone telling you here at the conference? You asked some spicy questions. Just give us an overview of what people were telling you throughout the weekend.
Well, it was funny. In the beginning, I was asking them, Team Tucker, Team Ben, and I was like, these Turning Point kids, they don't want to get in the drama. They're taking the higher road. I felt silly. I was like, oh, my bad for asking, guys. And one girl, I told Tim this backstage, but I said, Team Tucker, Team Ben, and she said, Team God. And I was like, well, you can't argue with that.
Yeah.
Very diplomatic of
yeah,
right. Not taking it aside.
That's when you start chasing her down the street Mike Wallace style. It's like, that's not the question I asked,
Well, what's funny is at the end of the day, JD Vance didn't actually say whose team he was on, but what he did say is that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. So no ambiguity there. He believes that. And he also talked a lot about the importance of moving the party forward, of focusing on the evil. That was something that Donald Trump Jr. talked about as well, and a lot of other speakers today and yesterday, looking forward, not focusing on each other, focusing on the real enemy that is what they would say is the left and this radical Antifa contingent of the society that is trying to put us in harm's way. There's a reason there's serious security at this event. There's a reason that all of these people have serious security. They don't talk about it a lot because they're not those type of people, but all of these top figures that we know and love have been put at risk, and they continue to be. And so we need to remember that and to not forget who the real enemy is here and who is under attack and by whom.
Yeah.
And honestly, to give credit to the Turning Point kids, I think they know that, and they're like, we love all our conservative speakers, which is great to see. And then another thing I picked up when I was talking to them is they are very focused on domestic issues, which I thought was very interesting.
That is interesting, and I think we've seen a lot of that as well, right? This is echoed in some of the rhetoric of people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who talk a lot about how she wants the president to focus on domestic issues. I will say the president has made a really interesting point that part of the reason he focuses on foreign issues as well is to help domestic issues. So through his use of the tariffs, he can help the American economy. He can help freedom of speech in other countries. That helps social media platforms in the United States and so on and so forth. But it is a really interesting conversation, and I love that Brecca gets out and about and talks to all these young people and hears what they have to say, even if you're stirring up controversy, which is hilarious.
I personally loved, and I'm sure it's floating around on Twitter somewhere, we played it on the show yesterday, you interviewing the protesters, who are the worst protesters of all time. It wasn't clear what they were against, maybe just like broadly us. And Brecca keeps asking them, they're like, we don't want to talk to you. No one was saying anything. They're all have masks on, of course. And I thought that was fantastic. All right, guys, a couple rapid fire questions here. Who was everyone's favorite speaker of the week? I know it's hard to pick, but who was everyone's favorite?
Oh, okay. Honestly, there's so many great speakers, and I don't even want to say this is my favorite, but one that stood out to me the most was Glenn Beck.
Okay, yes.
I thought he was so in tune, and from an older guy too, like so in tune with Gen Z, and exactly told them what they need to do, and that the power is really in their hands. Don't be a victim. You control your life more than any president, more than any institution.
Absolutely. I mean, if the end of his remarks where he talked about how the lights are flickering, and he said, what would you do if the lights turned out? I had chills. And, you know, I would have loved, we were supposed to interview him. We weren't able to. I would have loved to ask him, Glenn, the lights are flickering. Explain a little more what that means. Do you think they're going out soon? And what are the warning signs that we should be looking for? And I think, you know, he delivered an impassioned message to the youth here and reminded everyone that you have a unique purpose. You were created for a very specific thing. And that's something I heard from JD. I heard it from Donald Trump Jr. I heard it from Erica. All of these speakers reminding everyone that you were created uniquely by God with a specific purpose, and there's a reason that you're on this earth. And I love that. You know, it's something that Charlie talked about. It's a major messaging point because, you know, so many young people nowadays struggle with who they are, why were they created, what's their mission, what's their identity, and all of these speakers are talking about this and reminding them you were created for a very specific reason, and you were uniquely and wonderfully made, and I think that's so amazing. So I loved Glenn Beck too. I think I'm never going to forget Ben Shapiro's speech at the beginning of the conference. That was one hell of a speech, and it was really good. I also really liked JD Vance's speech. I'm going to have to watch it again, and I'm probably going to write about it too. But a lot of phenomenal speeches here, and I think my favorite interview is probably Bryce Crawford because that guy is so cool.
That was really amazing. You just named like all of the speeches.
I know, I'm sorry. I liked everything.
It's like asking for someone to pick their favorite kid. I'm just going to say Nicki Minaj. I mean, Ben's was amazing. I think, honestly, it was a great way to sort of bookend the week. Ben kind of, after Erica, of course, on Thursday night, Ben kicked things off with an absolute barn burner. And then Erica came back right before the vice president took the stage today with Nicki, the queen bee herself. And it was honestly, it was pretty fantastic. What was one more question for everybody? I think, Brecca, this was your first AmFest, my first AmFest. What surprised you the most about this week?
Guys, the love that's happening at AMFEST. I wasn't expecting this to be a matchmaking place, but and funny enough, I'm talking to one couple that found love at AMFEST, and I'm like, how did you guys meet? And this guy goes, some girl was yelling about Ben Shapiro, so it made me turn around. And then I saw another girl, and I thought she was cute, and then I go, how'd you feel about him? And she was like, I thought he was cute. Who knows?
So they hit it off. That's the cutest thing ever. Oh my gosh. Love at AmFest. Tim, all right, now I'm going to put the question on you. What surprised you the most?
I have never seen this many people in this sort of a setting be so unfailingly polite and kind and well-behaved. I mean, guys, we're in like an arena, right? We're in a convention center. This is basically like a basketball arena. It's like, I'm not even saying, like, forget political rallies, right? Like, if there were Democrats in here, this place would be a madhouse. But, like, if this was a basketball game, there would be more pushing and shoving and cutting in the drink line. I mean, it's like, it's clean, it's nice, it's friendly, everyone's happy, everyone's polite. People are saying sir and ma'am. I mean, it's fantastic. It's like, you can't make it up. It really is. It's been so calm almost, like, it's really amazing.
And this was not my first AmericaFest, but so no one asked me, but I'm just going to tell you guys what surprised me is that, first of all, Charlie's not here, so we were obviously, it's a very different situation. I expected it to be very emotional, and it was, but I think it was also incredibly positive, even with some of the spicy speeches we saw at the beginning of the week. There's an element here of everyone thinking for themselves. We were just talking about this, how some of these people, Brecca would talk to them and they like Ben Shapiro, they like Tucker Carlson, they like Megyn Kelly. They're open to hearing from everyone and thinking for themselves. And that's amazing, and it's not something that you see on the left, and I think it's so important for the future of the Republican Party that everyone can think and reason and listen and use their brains to come to the truth. And that's a really beautiful thing, and I think everyone's going to leave this conference encouraged and inspired by Charlie's mission, by Erica and carrying on that mission. And it's been really awesome to be a part of it. So thank you guys for following along with us, for sending us your questions, for listening to our interviews, and for just honoring Charlie's legacy with us at this first AmericaFest. Without him, we miss him, but we're so excited to see where TPUSA goes next and how they impact our country.
Yeah, absolutely. As Mary Margaret said, this has been an absolute blast, a real thrill ride, and we could not have done it without you. A reminder, there's still time, there's always time to subscribe to Daily Wire Plus. Go to the website, go to the app. 40% off, I think, through the end of the day. 50% off if you give a gift membership. Christmas is coming up, guys. If you haven't bought some Christmas gifts, what better way to show your love than Daily Wire yearly membership? It's going to be great. But seriously, thank you all again. We appreciate you, our viewers. We appreciate you tuning in. We will continue to be putting out content from this. We have a couple of great interviews and Men on the Streets with Brecca that we didn't get a chance to air so far. So keep an eye on the website. Keep an eye on the app. Brecca, thank you so much for joining us. Mary Margaret, it's been a pleasure sitting here with you for 5 days. All right,
and
guys.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.